Let's do it. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Master Your Mental. As you guys can tell from the title here, we are going to be talking all about these aspects here of how to maintain mental progress and healing this week. And I'm not doing it alone. I am joined this week by my amazing guest here, Roxanne Chaput. Did I say it right?
Yes, you did.
Yes. I know the last name's Roxanne Chaput, you guys. And Roxanne is super cool because she does a lot of awesome things. And I'm going to touch on a few and then go ahead and let her tell you a little bit more here. But Roxanne is a certified life coach who offers a variety of services to hone in and really help her clients unlock their greatest potential. So I'm super excited to dive into this topic. Connecting with Roxanne, really bringing this to the table for you guys because we're going to be talking a lot about how to maintain that mental progress in terms of your healing journey and moving forward and overcoming barriers and obstacles. And I'm super stoked to have Roxanne here with us. So welcome, Roxanne, to the podcast.
Thank you, Paris, for having me here. I'm super excited.
Yes, I'm super excited to have you here as well. And before we go ahead and dive on in, tell us a little bit more about what it is that lights you up.
So many things light me up.
Yes.
In the essence of my work, as spiritual guidance, energy healing, life and love coaching, just guiding others into their healing and into their life is the most riveting and the most rewarding thing that I could ever be doing. So for me, it's very important for my mission to be known that I am here to heal, love, and awaken others to the essence of their soul.
I love that. And just, getting into that there, like, what was there a specific moment or something that happened for you to get you into wanting to do this work? And what was that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess we'll kind of start off with the life and love coaching, kind of why I got into that realm. So there's like a few different things. And so ever since I was a little girl, like I always guided others. Everyone always came to me for advice. Everyone came to me for guidance or wisdom. Like even adults, like as a child, they would come to me, share their whole story, and ask my afterthought, like, "What do you think? What do you think I should do here?" And I'm like, "I'm 6." you know.
Oh.
And I always like had like this beautiful like feeling of energy. Like I could always feel great energy around me, light energy, dark energy. I always knew, like instinctually I would know someone as soon as I met them. I could read their entire life essentially. Like I knew exactly what they went through just looking at the eyes of their soul.
Wow.
And so people kind of always knew that. My mom was like, "Oh my goodness, like you should be like a counselor or a psychologist." I'm like, "No, like it didn't resonate to be true with what I felt that was kind of gnawing at me."
Mm-hmm.
And I just had this great feeling that I was just meant to really impact others, that I was going to impact humanity on a really greater level. It was like this burning feeling inside of me. And I would always ask my friends and family, like, "Hey, like, do you feel this feeling? Like, do you like feel like you're meant to do something more?" They're like, "Oh yeah, like I'm good. I know I want to be a doctor." I'm like, "Oh, that's great. But do you have like this burning sensation that you're just meant to serve like at a high, not a higher level, but like at a greater level? Like you're going to be really serving a lot of people." They're
Mm-hmm.
like, "Oh no, like I don't understand what that is." So I kind of kept that to myself afterwards because I just didn't know if anyone else could kind of resonate with how I was feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of fast forward through life, I went through, some tumultuous, unhealthy relationships to a very unhealthy marriage. And I ended up leaving with my 3 beautiful children. And when I had my daughter, I kind of had like my first awakening, like, what am I doing? What am I doing with my life? What am I allowing her to see? What am I allowing her to think that is okay and healthy? And that kind of started a little bit of my journey. And I knew that kind of my life wasn't going to be the same after that moment, like when that moment kind of happened. And it's funny because when I was pregnant with her, I knew that my life was going to change. I knew my
Wow.
life was going to change. I knew my marriage was going to change. Like I knew everything was going to change. I just didn't foresee how that was going to kind of come about. So then a little bit after I had left the marriage, I experienced 4 near-death experiences, which
Oh my gosh.
they were pretty eye-opening and pretty much just allowed me to go even deeper into my awakening period. And that's when I knew, like, after the first one, I was like, okay, like, I am not happy. Like, I say I'm happy, I say I'm good, I'm always good. Like, I'm a bubbly person, I'm a positive person. However, what I'm doing doesn't feel like it's in alignment with my soul. I feel like I'm doing the career that I'm doing. I was an executive. I feel like I'm doing this because I feel that I should. I feel
Mm,
that I should
mhm,
do it. I feel that that's kind of the expectation that our parents, and society kind of that pressure, that societal pressure that they put on us is that, you go to school, you go to university, you get a 9 to 5 job, you start a family, you buy a house, like the whole
mhm.
the whole gamut.
Yeah, yeah.
So I was like, you know what? Like this really isn't feeling in alignment. And I was driving one day after the first near death experience, and I was like, you know what? Like I've been guiding people my entire life, and I didn't really understand that this was a gift. And I was like, why am I just, serving people that I come across? Like, why am I like, serving my clients, my patients, and that? Like, why am I not trying to serve the world? Like, why am I limiting myself?
Yes.
And I didn't understand, like, I never had social media or anything like that. I'm not a fan of kind of like that aspect, unless for like the marketing aspect, for your business, it's essential.
Yes.
And I was like, you know what? Why am I not doing that? And then that kind of triggered me. I'm like, I'm starting a business. Like I'm starting my coaching business. So like, I've been coaching my
Yes.
entire life, just never had a business, or entity to kind of call, a coaching business. So then I kind of went on that journey, and that was like an amazing journey, an incredible journey. Like everything just kind of aligned for it to happen. There was like no resistance in the creation of the business whatsoever.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so it's absolutely beautiful. And then about 2 years after that, I experienced three near death experiences within 6 months of each other.
Oh my gosh.
And
Wow.
going through that, it kind of awakened me even further. Like it almost shook me a little bit even more. And I'm like, okay, like what am I not doing that I'm supposed to be doing here? Like, give me some signs, let me know what I need to do. And I'm always been like a dream, like I always did like interpretation.
Mhm.
And I always like all my dreams really always came to reality. Like I would vision things, I would have premonitions in my dreams, and then they would kind of come to fruition, or I would just avoided the situation knowing that it was probably going to kind of come,
Mhm.
to a head.
Wow, that's just listening to you really just dive into that and kind of share, like your experiences and your background into that, and especially how that lines up with what you're doing and always having felt called to that from such a young age. Like, and just, especially when you bring up the near death experiences almost and like having those moments and really like experiencing those shifts to doing what you're doing now and working with people. And like you said, you've always had that something inside of you to do something more, to do something greater in terms of impacting lives. But like you said, you just weren't sure exactly what that was, what it looked like. But that's amazing because to really hear from your journey so far of literally going from, having this marriage and then, overcoming these challenges and leaving that and then having your kids and just it's just really cool to hear that and just what you've been able to accomplish in that time and kind of build this up. So I'd love to ask you, especially when we're talking about this here, on this topic of maintaining that mental progress, right? Especially when you're faced with challenges like you brought up, right? Like literally experiencing not just one, but four near death experiences and then shifting your career, right? Because you mentioned, you were working as an executive and the different things like that and then going from that and completely changing. So what was that like for you to, really begin that transition? Like I know you mentioned, not feeling resistance or anything, but what was that process like for you?
Yeah, so I think like there was no resistance in the creation of the business and knowing that I was going to have this entity and build this empire in that facet. However, I did have, like as you know, like the mind creates negative self-doubt and is like, oh my
Mm.
goodness, like what am I doing? Like am I really leaving a six-figure job in order to
Mhm.
go to potentially I don't know what I'm going to make at this point. But like there was a bit of that fear and a bit of that hesitancy and like like, the benefits, the pension and so forth. And I think
Mhm.
we grew up with parents in an era that it was work 9 to 5, get your
Mhm.
pension, get your benefits, security, stability. Like that was really important. Where this generation is is completely different. It's all about kind of passion based and like
Mhm.
following what they truly desire to do, which I think is absolutely beautiful. So there was
Yeah.
just a
Oh,
little
yeah.
bit of, my parents, are you sure like this is what you want to do? But my mom was like, you know what, like you've always landed on your feet. You have a great head on your shoulders. Like I trust you. I trust your decisions. She's like, but I'm a coward. She's like, I'm going to say that, bluntly. She's like, I would stay in the 9 to 5, the security, and I would never take the risk because I'm not a risk taker. But she's like, it's so beautiful to see that you are like that you're able to go and just trust your instinct and trust your soul and just kind of follow that path.
Oh my
So
gosh. That's such a beautiful insight, especially like having that come from your mom, like seeing that in you. So, oh my gosh. And then just, hearing you bring this up. So I'd love if we can kind of get into so talking about the near death experiences, like after those experiences took place, like what kind of shift did you notice in your life? Like what did you experience after that?
expansive shift. What
Mhm.
ended up happening was, so I'm Indigenous. So here in Canada, we have a Native culture. We're Indigenous to the land, and I am Indigenous. So I am Métis. So I'm French and Native.
Mhm.
So for me, my ancestry was always very important, but it was never something that we had kind of spoken about. So, like going through my self mastery journey, it was really important for me to understand my ancestral roots. And I always felt like I was being called to my origins. I was always being called to my ancestry, but I never quite understood why. And I kind of ignored that. And after the last near death experience, I had this dream for almost 4 months straight of this beautiful Indigenous woman. And she was standing at this ravine. And like I said, it was every night for 4 months. And there was teepees right beside her.
Mhm.
And she kept putting her hands out to me. And the connection to her felt like she was my maternal grandmother. And she kept humming this song, this beautiful, beautiful melancholy. And it was such a beautiful, beautiful melody. And I was like, where did I hear this song? Like maybe subconsciously I heard it somewhere and I'm interpreted it into my dream. But I tried Shazamming it. I tried everything. So I ended up going to one of these elders in my community, in our Métis community, and I told him I was hemming this song for him. He's like, "Oh my goodness!" He's like, "That's a traditional healing song. Like that hasn't been heard for like I think he said over like 100 years that they haven't actually used that for like their healing
Oh,
tradition."
wow.
He's like,
Yeah.
my great grandfather used to sing that to us.
Mm.
His great grandfather was a shaman. Like he comes from a generations of shamans, of energy healers, medicine men is what they call it in the culture. So I was like, oh, okay, my goodness. He's like, but it's not exactly that. It's almost like it's specific to you. Like it's not the exact hymn that he used to like chant to me.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, okay, cool. Okay. I'm like, well, what does that mean? And he's like, well, she's calling you to the land. Like she's calling you to come and heal. And it's funny
Mm.
because the image in the dream, she was always by the exact same piece of land with her hands
Hands
extended to
open.
me and calling me. So I was like, oh my goodness. So I have like a lot of friends that are obviously very spiritual and very in touch with like spirit and connection and all that. And I had this beautiful spiritual mentor and spiritual guide, and she's like a galactic guide. She's just an incredible person. And she's like, I told her about my dream. She's like, she's calling you to the land to come and heal and to like come and be a healer,
And that's
like
what she said.
yes.
Oh,
She's like,
wow.
and come and like do your traditions because shamanic, in shamanism, like being a
Mhm.
shaman, you cannot actually just learn to be a shaman. Like it's not something like a
Mm.
medicinal doctor where you go to school and you can become like a doctor,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
yeah.
It's either you're
Oh,
born into being a shaman, like an energy healer, you're initiated, you're awakened to it, and then a shaman has to initiate you into the shamanic world. Like it's not something
yeah.
that you can just kind of
Oh my
declare
gosh.
yourself as a shaman. So she's like, she's calling you to the land and she's telling you that, you need to follow your ancestry. You come from like an ancestry of shamans, of medicine men and medicine women. I was like, oh my goodness. And that would make complete sense on what she was trying to
Isn't
say.
that so cool? Like just with the whole dream thing, that's what I'm kind of trying to, dive deeper into learning more about just like the meanings behind this. Because especially when you bring up having that for 4 months, this dream and just like having that meaning and understanding, like being called to do this is like just really cool to me, like the connections between these different things and understanding that. So, I mean, Wow. And, just I love to ask you, like, so far on your journey with all of this in terms of, healing yourself and working with clients, like, can you share with me like one moment in particular that stands out for you as being like one of the most impactful moments that you've personally experienced so far on your journey?
Yeah, so there would really be two experiences, and one is just for myself, and the other one would be with my client,
Mhm.
my first healing client, which was absolutely incredible. So my healing journey, when I was having that dream, and after I had received the guidance from my elder and from my spiritual guide, that morning after the last dream that I had had the dream the night before, and I woke up in the morning and I told my fiance, I'm like, listen, I'm being called to the land. I need to go and heal. And I knew
Mhm.
exactly where I needed to go. Like no one had told me where I needed to go. I just knew where there was ancient healing grounds, like traditional healing grounds in the indigenous culture.
Mhm.
And I'm like, I'm being called to go heal. I need to go heal. And then I literally drove there. It was 2.5 hours. It's pouring rain. Okay. Like pouring
Oh,
rain
wow.
outside. It's a 2.5 hour drive. And on the way there, I'm not a crier. Like I show my emotions, I experience my emotions, but just to cry and sob for like hours is just not my character.
Mhm.
It's just not how I've ever like carried myself.
And that happened on the drive.
Yeah, on the drive for 2.5
Oh,
hours straight, and I kept singing that song. I kept, like, playing the same indigenous song over and over and
oh
over
my
again.
gosh.
So I get into these grounds, okay, so it takes about 20 minutes to get to the healing property, to the healing spot, and there's this beautiful, beautiful healing rock, like, made of, like, limestone.
Yeah.
And it might keep in mind, it's pouring rain, so I'm walking to the rock, and I literally sit on the rock, and I'm there for over 4 hours, and I'm doing a smudging ceremony, so I'm not sure if you're familiar with smudging.
No, no.
Oh, yeah, so smudging is like, an indigenous culture, it's an indigenous tradition where we clear spirits, we clear energy, and it's kinda like a
Oh,
prayer. It's
wow.
almost like a ceremony, it's very sanctimonial.
So to clear that out of your system, or what would it
Just
be?
yeah, like you'll hear about cleansing in homes, like you'll have shamans go and do cleansing in
Oh,
homes.
yeah.
Old traditions will kinda they take like a smudging stick, like a sage stick, a cedar
Oh,
stick,
yeah.
tobacco, and it's just something it's very ceremonial, it's something that you do to cleanse, like, every part of your body, your chakras, and so forth.
Oh, wow.
So I'm sitting on this rock for hours and I'm doing this beautiful ceremony and all of a sudden like it's pouring rain and out of the entire time that I'm there, no word of a lie, not one single drop of water hit me the entire time that I was there and it was pouring and there was no like enclosure over the rock or the stone.
Oh, wow.
All
So
of
the
a
whole
sudden
time there, it was pouring
pouring
rain, and then you
like
got there and it was like,
still raining. I just not one drop of water hit me the entire time that I was sitting on that rock.
oh my gosh. And then in that moment, so like I know so in that moment of that was your experience, right? So like one of the most profound experiences for you is having that, you woke up again from the dream and then went there and then started doing this. And then really, is that when you kind of recognize like this is the work that you are being called to do? Or is that when you're like,
Yeah.
okay, this is what it is to help others heal these different things? Is that the moment?
As soon as I was sitting on that rock and I felt that reconnection to my soul, the reconnection to Mother Nature, to the wind, to the earth, to feeling the trees, to the animals, to the water, because it was all surrounded by all the elements, except for fire, obviously. And then all of a sudden, a deer, a bunny, a chipmunk, everything is coming out of the woodworks, and kind of this little
It
chipmunk.
sounds so beautiful.
Oh yeah. Oh, if I showed you pictures, you'd be like, wow, like it's a very beautiful spot. And there's this little chipmunk just kind of hanging out beside me. I'm like, I have no food. Like, I don't got anything for you, but you
Oh,
know. But as soon as I had that moment, and literally I was crying on that rock for 4.5 hours, just reconnecting my soul to who we are as human beings, nature, right? And it was so incredible. So yes, I knew right then and there that this was what I was meant to do. I was meant to heal others. And after I did that healing ceremony and that healing kind of celebration with myself, I am like, okay, I need to see if this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So I'm just going to ask friends and family to come with me and see if I can do the exact same thing, replicate the same thing, and have the same outcome. And every single time it was just healing. And
oh my gosh.
they're like, oh, I don't even know what this is. I'm like, well, how would you describe it? Like, I need a testimonial. They're like, just wow, like they're like, I don't know. She's like, if my husband asked me, or like if my girlfriend asked me, I'm just gonna say yeah. Like I
Oh,
don't know.
that's so cool. Just like having you share that, like of going through that experience of when you got there and actually, participating in this and just really like getting yourself in that position of like when you can do this work to help others do that is just so beautiful because that's what I always think is so cool with these conversations, just hearing the history behind, why people do what they do or what makes you passionate about this or what gets you excited. And I can definitely hear it in your voice from hearing you speak about this, especially from when you mentioned the transition of, how you used to live to now, and just feeling like you're living in your purpose and you're really doing that is just absolutely incredible because I know, there's definitely, so many people out there who probably feel that, feel what you felt, right? That same calling of like, I want to do more. I don't know what it is. I'm trying to figure it out. And that's super cool because hearing your story, is great to give hope to others that, you might not know right now, but that you have that feeling of wanting to do something else, but you're just not sure. It's an awesome story to hear because that really just restores the hope back into that, it's going to happen and it's going to come. Just like you said, that these things happen at certain moments in life and kind of come about in different ways. So that's amazing that you were able to, have that for yourself and then give that gift back to others to really give them that impact that you experienced, especially when you're talking about healing and, especially healing from, traumatic experiences and being able to reconnect the dots on that and just move forward in like a really sustainable way. I love it. And, I love just hearing things like this and, being able to, bring attention to stuff like this. So, another question I love to ask you actually is something I love to ask everybody. So I love this question because, I always get a different answer. No one ever kind of gives the same response. It always brings so much value. So Roxanne, of course, I have to ask you this one. So in this moment right now in your life, what are you doing to master your mental?
What I do to master my mental is I journey. So in shamanic culture, we do a lot of journeying where it's kind of like a form of meditation, a form of trance where we go and we connect with our soul and we connect with our spiritual guides and our animal guides. And that and spending time with my family and just being with my partner and my children, like it just brings out the joie de vivre in my life. And it just makes everything worth it. It makes everything just so simplistic that we are all love. We are all based of love and connection. And that is the most important thing of us being here.
Oh my gosh, that's so beautiful. And just especially hearing you expand more on that journey aspect, right? Of relating it back to meditation, because that's something that, I found and, a lot of other people that I connected with really share with me of, especially what you mentioned too, in your like breakthrough moment of being out in nature, surrounded by all these different elements, because, it does help a lot, right? Especially when we're getting outdoors, like everyone kind of understands that, right? Get outside, be in nature and do these different things, but you practice it, you live it. You don't just, do it a couple times. Like that's your lifestyle. And that's really what you really, really honor deeply, to being able to deliver these practices to the people that you're serving. So that's incredible to hear that you really prioritize that as a main priority, doing this, getting out there, connecting with nature, and just having that as a huge staple in your life, I think is amazing. Cause just for me, like I haven't had experience in the same area as you with what you do, but I know for me, when I do have the opportunity to be out in nature for long periods of time without my phone, present with the other people around me, and actually in that moment, instead of constantly like thinking back to what's going to happen tomorrow or what's for dinner, or always like my mind is always going everywhere else. It truly is incredible when, and I definitely know you understand this, continuing to practice that, how that really helps for you to have more awareness of the thoughts that you have. Like you mentioned earlier, having these negative thoughts come in and having these, limits like constantly thrown your way and presented towards you, when that, you're transitioning and, you didn't experience that resistance with, stepping into your purpose, but you had different kinds of resistances. So for you to be able to overcome that is just, another great example to show people that, like look at Roxanne, like look at her story, like look at what she's doing, like check out her work, because again, it's just another example of the things that you've learned and utilize to be able to come out the other side, especially like experiencing the things that you did. When you do bring up having those 4 near-death experiences, having this marriage that you left, and then, because that's the thing is, you went through a lot of difficult and challenging things, and as do we all. We all have those experiences, but you've really made the best of it, and you really used that and turned it into a gift. So I think that's absolutely incredible. And I just want to thank you for, taking the time to come out here on Master Your Mental and just share these experiences, share your story and your journey and the work that you're doing with us, because it is really cool. Super inspiring to see that, and just, to be able to, gain value from that. So thank you so much for coming out. It's been absolutely amazing.
Thank you, Paris, for having me. Thank you so much.
Yes, I can't wait. I can't wait to share this. And I'm so excited. And you guys, I want to thank you as well, for being here and tuning in and listening. And, whether it's the daytime or the nighttime, I hope that you guys have a great rest of the day or nighttime. And on that note, I'm going to say bye to you guys and wish all of you well. Love you so much. And also say bye to Roxanne. So bye to you guys, and bye, Roxanne. So bye, Roxanne.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.